Everyone loves a good deal, but sometimes the discounts get so ridiculous that ignoring them actually feels like a mistake. Steam is currently throwing some absolute masterclasses in gaming at us for practically nothing, and you really do not want to miss out. Hi folks, it's Josh, and today we're talking about some insane Steam games on sale for up to 90% off that you should seriously consider grabbing right now. And we're starting off with Outer Wilds. Look, it's 50% off right now, which puts it at $12.49, and honestly, that's the kind of price that makes me immediately suspicious, because Outer Wilds is one of those games people spend years trying to convince their friends to play. And for good reason. I am not going to spoil anything because the internet has somehow collectively agreed not to ruin this one, which is honestly kind of beautiful. What I will say is that exploration games usually hand you objectives, map markers, journals, checklists, yada yada. Outer Wilds trust you to be curious. That's it. That's the hook. You follow questions until those questions become bigger questions. Then suddenly it's 3 in the morning and you've got conspiracy boards in your head trying to connect everything together. We recommend games all the time around here, but this is one of those rare ones that people come back and thank us for later. Go in blind. Seriously. Now up next we have The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. There are people watching this video who have probably bought Skyrim 3 or 4 times already, and honestly, I get it. The damn thing just refuses to die. You know what's even crazier? Right now it's 75% off, bringing it down to $9.99. Less than $10 for one of the most replayable RPGs ever made. And the funny thing is, we're not even talking about the base game anymore. Skyrim has become this weird platform where every few months the modding community finds another way to turn it into an entirely different experience. You want survival mechanics? Done. New quest lines? Done. Better combat? Better visuals? Entirely new lands? Somebody probably released 3 of those this week. The game is ancient at this point and somehow still one of the easiest recommendations in gaming. If you've never played it, fix that. If you have played it, well, you probably already own it anyway. So next up we have Grim Dawn. If you love Diablo-style ARPGs but you're tired of Blizzard's nonsense, this is your game. Grim Dawn is the spiritual successor to Diablo 2 that Diablo 3 never was, and it's currently 80% off, which brings it down to $4.99. That is an insultingly low price for how much content is in here. We're talking dual-class customization, deep crafting systems, factions with reputations, and a bleak Victorian-inspired world that actually feels dangerous. And the best part? Crate Entertainment is still supporting this game many years after launch. And now the third expansion, called Fangs of Asterkarn, is already on the horizon, which is massive. We're talking over hundreds new unique items, 2 new roguelike dungeons, and more. For $5, you are getting one of the deepest ARPGs ever made, with more content on the way. That is not a deal. That is robbery. And next up, it's Shadow of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. Look, I know this one tends to live in the shadow of the other modern Tomb Raider games. People usually talk about the 2013 reboot or Rise of the Tomb Raider first. Fair enough, but Shadow does something really well that I don't think gets enough credit. It finally lets Lara feel like the Lara Croft everybody imagines when they think of the character. The tombs are bigger, the exploration is stronger, and the whole thing leans harder into archaeological adventure. And then you look at the price, 90% off, $2.49. That's not even impulse buy cents. That's not even impulse buy territory anymore. That's the price of finding loose change in your couch cushions. Is it the best game in the trilogy? Maybe not. Is it worth less than $3? Absolutely not. Grab it and spend a weekend raiding tombs. Coming in next, let's talk about Slime Rancher. It is 75% off on Steam, meaning you can grab it for $5, which is absurd for something that will consume 50 hours before you even notice. I know it looks like a children's cartoon, but do not let the bright colors fool you. Behind the adorable facade is a meticulously crafted farm management simulator that gets surprisingly deep. You are exploring an alien planet, vacuuming up different species of slimes, building corrals for them, and trying to feed them their favorite foods to harvest their incredibly valuable byproducts. Then you reinvest that money into jetpack upgrades and better farming tech so you can venture further out to find even weirder, more dangerous slimes. It hits that exact same addictive dopamine loop as Stardew Valley, just in first person with a giant vacuum gun. For $5, it is the perfect low-stress palate cleanser. Just try not to stay up until 3 in the morning optimizing your plort economy. And next up, it's A Plague Tale, Requiem. Okay, I need to talk about this one for a second because this is a new historical low price. $14.99 for a game that was nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards back in 2022. That is genuinely insane. Requiem follows siblings Amicia and Hugo as they navigate a plague-ridden France, and honestly, it is one of the most emotionally brutal games I have ever played. The rat hordes are genuinely terrifying, the stealth mechanics are tense, and the story, without spoiling anything, does not pull its punches. At launch, the game was capped at 30 frames per second on consoles, which was a whole controversy, but Asobo released a patch that added a 60 frames per second performance mode, plus Steam Deck compatibility and new graphics options on PC. So now you can play this gorgeous, heartbreaking adventure at a smooth frame rate for almost a third of its original price. If you like the first game, you need this. If you haven't played either, start with Innocence, but grab this while it's cheap. And next up, it's Just Cause 3. Forget about finding a serious narrative here, because that is exactly why this rules. You play as Rico Rodriguez, a man whose entire purpose in life is blowing up military bases with increasingly absurd combinations of grappling hooks, wingsuits, and high explosives. The physics engine is effectively a sandbox for your most unhinged, intrusive thoughts. Want to attach a cow to a helicopter and swing it like a wrecking ball into a fuel tank? This world actively encourages that behavior. It is currently 85% off on Steam, dropping it down to $3. For $3, you're getting the closest thing gaming has to a Michael Bay simulator. Sure, the story is utterly forgettable and the driving controls kind of suck, but nobody is playing this for the lore. You are playing to tether an enemy to a gas canister, shoot it, and watch him launch into the stratosphere like a human firework. Just buy it and blow something up. Next on the list, it's Disco Elysium, The Final Cut. For a game surrounded by so much real-world drama, it's kind of amazing how universally respected the actual game remains. You've probably heard about the studio disputes, the legal mess, the canceled projects, all of that stuff. That's a whole other conversation. The important thing is that Disco Elysium remains one of the most unique RPGs ever made. You're solving a murder technically, but honestly that's underselling it by about 90%. The writing is unbelievable. The role-playing systems are unlike anything else out there. Every conversation feels like it could completely derail your life. And right now it's 75% off at $9.99. $10 for a game people still argue about years later because it hit them that hard. Not every RPG needs swords and dragons. Sometimes all you need is a disaster detective and a very bad week. And coming in next we have Limbo. Okay, so this one is almost free. Actually, let me rephrase. It is $1.24. That is less than a candy bar. That is less than some vending machines charge for water. And what you get for that pocket change is a masterpiece of minimalist game design that has held up incredibly well for 15 years. The black and white art style, the haunting sound design, the puzzles that make you feel smart without being frustrating, it all works. You can finish it in about 4 hours, which means you're paying roughly 30 cents per hour of genuinely memorable gaming. Some of the puzzles toward the end get a little obtuse, I'll admit that, but honestly, for $1.24, who cares? Playdead's Firstborn still has teeth. If you somehow missed this one back in the day, now is the time to fix that mistake. And finally, we have Inside. This is Playdead's follow-up to Limbo, and it is one of those rare sequels that doesn't just match the original. It surpasses it in almost every way. It is 90% off on Steam right now, which means you are paying $2.49 for what is arguably one of the best atmospheric puzzle platformer ever made. Look, I did not expect much from a game where you just run right and push boxes, but Playdead completely nailed it. The pacing is immaculate, perfectly stringing you along from one terrifying set piece to another without ever giving you a moment to catch your breath. You are this defenseless kid sneaking through a grim, dystopian facility, and the things trying to kill you are genuinely unnerving. There is no dialogue, no combat, and honestly, The game does not even tell you what the hell is actually going on, but you just keep moving forward, completely captivated by the brilliant sound design and moody art style. For less than a cheap coffee, you get a masterclass in tension. Play it with headphones in the dark and try to survive.